No, 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 no.
Ciao, ciao, everybody, and welcome to episode 45 of Giallo, Ciao, Ciao, the All Giallo show, where we never put things off, including this show. How's everybody doing?
I'm feeling a little reversed.
Chris is doing wonderful tonight, I think.
Like
All
you're
right,
turned around?
That's better. Is my shirt
Yeah,
correct?
Yep, there you go, 4 seasons.
You always worry about the video feed.
Yeah, no one's watching this.
My shirt's backwards.
No, it's not.
Mine's
Well,
back-
it is. It is for you.
Yeah. I don't know why they do that. Just make it fucking simple, stupid. Okay,
It's backwards.
so if you are joining us tonight and you would like to converse with us, please use the Q&A thing button or whatever, or else we're not going to see it. So, with that said, let's get into the show.
Yeah,
So how
Let
was
the games
everybody?
begin.
How was everybody's fortnight?
It was a good fortnight.
Yeah.
I made you guys some beef jerky. So
Gross. I'm excited. Did
Yeah.
you mail it to me?
I can mail it to you.
Do you have like a dehydrator or whatever?
No, I just have a meat smoker that I use in my backyard.
That's awesome. I totally want to fill my mouth up with your jerky.
I was
Okay.
going to say, come on, can we have a meat smoker joke, please?
Well,
Please.
I mean, all I do is I open it up and I put the meat in there, and then
And smoke it.
it's like a low and slow cooking. Get the meat cooking real nice and the juice is flowing.
Slow and low, that is the tempo, as they say.
All right. That's the tempo of our show tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I think it will be.
We take things slow and low. Chris can't get his soundboard to work.
Yeah,
Work all
ladies
day
and
on it.
gentlemen, I was all prepared to be just bombarding everyone with all these fantastic clips from the movie Pieces, including the infamous Bastard, which I did a full version and then individual Bastards separately, I think, or something. I don't know. But stupid fucking internet technology
Bill Gates.
nonsense.
You know
Doesn't
what?
work.
If you spent 5 minutes looking up tutorials on YouTube on how to do all the stuff that you try to do, you wouldn't have these problems at the beginning of the show.
Trust YouTube.
It's okay to say that you need help. It doesn't make you less of a man. If it
Thanks.
wasn't for YouTube tutorials, I wouldn't know how to do anything.
Thanks. Hey, Creep, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate that. The truth of the matter, ladies and gentlemen, is that this particular computer device was properly set up on many occasions. And not only can I not get my custom overlay, which you don't see, all of a sudden not popping up anymore, but the Soundflower, which is the application that I use to merge multiple sound sources through one output device, is not
I do
working.
different stuff with my Soundflower.
Yeah.
Truth be told, I actually snuck into your house and disabled all of that because I didn't want to be bombarded with bastards all night.
Well, I'm going to try it again.
So did you see Night of the Living Dead at a drive-in? Did I see that?
No, I posted that I was super jealous that I wasn't there to see Night of the
Oh.
Living Dead at the drive-in. But that's a good
Seconds to
segue
read it.
because I wanted to
Right a segue.
I just wanted to talk I just wanted to talk about how awesome these guys are with their continued drive-in features. I think they're doing to kick off the Halloween season. They're doing "I drink your blood and I eat your skin," which is like the
I
ultimate.
swallow your jizz.
Yeah, that was the third part of the trilogy.
I missed that one.
Eric, you're disgusting.
Listen,
But ding.
You know,
I drink your blood is far superior than I eat your skin. I would suggest just ducking
you
out
drink
of
my
it.
butt.
Yeah.
Yeah, from what I remember, isn't I Eat Your Skin like a black and white film?
Yeah, can I tell you a little anecdote about that?
Please.
Sure. Or an antidote.
No, I'm going to give you an anecdote.
Okay.
It has X in it. Um, I did a film called Lovesick Captivity, and I can't believe I can't remember her name off the top of my head. Heather Hewitt. Heather Hewitt is in that movie, and she is the lead actress in I Eat Your Skin.
Huh.
And in my movie, she plays this overbearing mom on this adult who's trying to like break away from his mom, and she's like really physical with him, intimately kind of thing. And so he's all freaked out by his mom. But in the movie, because that's public domain, I have him watching that movie, and he's like all like getting aroused watching I Eat Your Skin because his
And
mom's in the bikini.
and
But
it's his mom.
but it's not supposed to be his mom. But he's just like getting ready to spank bank to some hot chick in a bikini. But yeah, so that was just a weird little fun thing.
That is weird and little and fun.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Like my
Well,
penis.
Well, well, guys, I'm trying now to put the Google headband on my head, and that's not working either. So maybe
You're fucked.
it's a complete disaster with regard to this computer.
I think so.
Steve Jobs' ghost is haunting you.
Yeah, but Steve Jobs had nothing to do with Google. So
I know, but you're on a Mac, right?
yeah, but it's the rest of the Mac seems to be working. But anyway,
You're not on a penny board, so no one could hold a mirror out in front of you.
I have
So-
to I have to talk about this movie I watched over the past fortnight, which I still haven't decided whether I want to say I liked it or not. It was really, 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 really awful.
The
And
editor.
no, it was called shit. What was it called? It was called Would You Rather.
Would
It
I
was
rather
with
what?
it was with Jeffrey Combs, the Mr. Reanimator guy, and it was like a 2013 horror film about this guy who invites people to a dinner party and plays this deadly game of Would You Rather with them, and the winner is supposed to get like this um, huge monetary prize to help them out of whatever struggles they're in. You know, the main character, her boyfriend is, oh no, I'm sorry, her brother is dying of some kind of crazy disease and he needs a bone marrow transplant. And this guy says, well, if you come and play our Would You Rather game and you win, then you'll get all the medical help that you need, and we can put him at the top of the donor list and all this other stuff. And the movie is like, it's so bad. I had to continue to sit and watch it because I wanted to see how it ended. But like, you know, he gets them around the dinner table, and he basically, after, you know, not to really ruin it too much, but he basically forces them to stay. He says, okay, does anybody want to leave before we play the game? And nobody wants to leave. And then once he asks the first would you rather question, they all get freaked out because the guy's a maniac. But then a whole bunch of people come in with guns and keep them around the table at gunpoint, and they have to play the game. And like, one of the games is would you rather you know, smack this one guy with the whip, or plunge an ice pick into this person's leg, or something like that. And yeah, it's on Netflix, and it's I don't know what to say. If anybody in our group or in our circle has seen this film and has any thoughts about it whatsoever, I thought it was really, really terrible, but at the same time, I couldn't turn it off. So, how really terrible was it?
Is it kind of like House on Haunted Hill?
The original? I never
Either.
saw the remake, so no,
Oh, the remake is amazing.
um no, because House on Haunted Hill was kind of like fun and funny. This one was just really kind of, it tried to be like a cross between disturbing, objectionable, and like torture porn kind of, but at the same time it wasn't done that well. Like, it didn't offend me and it didn't make me um uncomfortable. It just made me kind of like feel like I was watching a really bad movie.
What's its Giallo score?
Oh, I didn't score it.
Oh.
It didn't get any Giallo score.
How's it doing with the Divas Revolution?
Don't justify that with an answer. Listen, I think tonight we should play a little Would You Rather as we talk about pieces. How does that sound?
If I justified that with an answer, the answer would be, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
Yeah.
I'm talking about, is Charlotte Flair a man?
Well, of course. Is that Ric Flair's
Okay.
sister?
Daughter,
Daughter. Okay.
son.
Illegitimate.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
How would we play Would You Rather with pieces? Because I could think of like 12 different ways we could do this, and each one is more fun than the last.
All right.
Well, yeah. Chris saw the movie, so he's probably the expert on it now.
You guys did watch it? Okay.
I mean, Would You Rather? You're the expert on that.
Oh, the Would You Rather
that
movie.
game,
I see.
yeah. The rules and everything.
This is a terrible podcast.
It started off so well.
Okay.
So,
Would you rather have Paul Smith, who plays Wilbur, do things
Willard.
to you?
Willard.
Willard. Do things to you with his big, meaty fingers, or would you like to get in bed with the amateur detective before he hears a noise outside?
I think the most beautiful thing in the world is smoking pot and fucking on a waterbed at the same time.
That doesn't answer the question. But
So you're saying you want a mustache ride on that creepy professor?
I'm not going to charge you anymore. That's what the deal I made with your secretary. I ain't getting paid by the hour.
I'll stay till it's done.
Would you
I'll be
guys rather?
as quick as I can.
More work. That's better business.
Would you rather have the kung fu guy teach you some kung fu for one session, and then you have to eat bad chop suey with him afterwards, or lay in a bed with a girl after she's been all chopped up and bloody, and you have to spend the whole night with that chopped up body?
All of the body, or just some of the body?
The whole body, head, legs.
The body.
You'll lay next to a disemboweled body.
Is there any way I could be blamed for her being disemboweled?
I mean, yeah, you could always be blamed for it. I mean, you're laying next to it. Your
I'll
fingerprints
do
are probably on
kung
it.
fu. Yeah, no,
You'll eat
I'll
the bad
kung
chop
fu
suey.
it. Fuck yeah, I'll eat the bad chop suey.
All right. And that ends our game show edition of
Who
Giallo,
wins?
Ciao, Ciao.
I don't think any of us won. Okay, would you rather be the second investigator's eyebrows or Lindsay A. George's forehead?
If I had to be one body part, I guess it would be the eyebrows.
I do like that guy's kitchen. It's like, the dean, he's got like a completely separate room where the stove is compared to where the sink is. Like he walked through like a glass partition to get the teapot and then brought it in to the other room where the sink was. I thought that was a pretty cool looking kitchen.
Yeah.
That's the way it should be.
I'm very strong,
Yes.
So, pieces.
Eric, how was your fortnight?
Well, I mean, I watched this movie called Pieces that I think we're going to talk about tonight. And, yeah, that's really about it. That's really all I did. Like I said, I went and visited the West Coast over in Portland, Oregon.
Oh, Portland, I was about to smack you, dude.
Yeah.
If you come to the West Coast, you need to come stay on my couch.
All right. That'll be my next
Goes without
vacay. Yeah. But, yeah, so it's been a little uneventful. Speaking of movie screenings, it's not really a drive-in, but they're playing a movie in the cemetery this Saturday that I'm going to go attend at dusk, and it's 1922's Hexen, Witchcraft Through the Ages.
Oh my gosh.
Huh.
So if anyone wants to come up to Minneapolis for that,
That sounds really fun.
that's what's going on. And it's a memorial cemetery. There's no fresh corpses there or anything. It's all old soldiers in a row. And I don't think that the screening actually takes place on the tombstones or anything like that. It's not sacrilegious people, even though it kind of is because
If
we're watching a
those
movie about
soldiers
witchcraft.
even knew that their bodies would be desecrated with that filth, they would have never died for this country.
I know, man.
Because they died for your freedom to be able to watch that movie on their dead bodies.
Maybe they have they have like a mausoleum with a big wall on the side. They project it on the wall.
Yeah, that's what I'm envisioning, and I'll probably show up in my patriotic garb, creep. Don't worry.
All right.
Uncle Sam outfit.
Now we're talking. I saw some movies that I want to bitch about real quick. Insidious 3 sucks balls. That movie.
Why would you even watch it after Insidious 2?
Damn awful. I don't know, dude. I went to the Universal Halloween Horror Nights and got kind of brainwashed into thinking that some movies would be good. The maze for Insidious was really scary as shit. It was good.
Maze?
Yeah, they have all these haunted house mazes.
Okay.
In the middle of the night, people jump out at you, and they're all based on movies
Nice.
and TV shows. It's pretty good. So that was just like a huge turd that should have ended like... There were just like characters that are brought in that should have plot points, and then all of a sudden they're just never spoke of again. It was like a camel. It was so awful.
Is the first one good?
No, not really.
I mean, if you like movies that have like jump scares that come out of nowhere,
right,
and scare the shit out of you because it's something up close and something screaming, then yeah, that's interesting and fun. But if you want a movie that is good and at the end of the movie you're like, wow, that ending didn't suck, then I wouldn't watch any of the Insidious movies. This one was awful, and the ending for this was like worse than any ending of a movie I could remember.
Huh.
Like, it's worse than the kid shooting the parents at the end of Bay of Blood, spoiler. But so
like,
that was that.
The only reason I ask is because I have a bunch of like new quote unquote horror movies that I've never like gotten into the mood to watch, and I think that might be one of them, and The Conjuring is one of them.
That's scary. I mean, they're all scary because shit jumps out at you.
And the remake of Evil Dead, did anybody see that?
Yeah.
It's okay, yeah.
It's worth watching.
You can tell that they thought that they were going to try to jump on the popularity of Cabin in the Woods.
Watch past the credits, the end credits.
Oh yeah, that's what somebody else told me too. You got to watch past the end credits. And what was there's one more on here, and I can't find it now. I'm looking at my movie list.
Cabin in the Woods?
No.
Is it that Deborah Logan movie?
That was actually kind of disturbing.
Yeah.
I don't like old ladies.
I have to watch that for a movie club I'm in.
Oh man, I can't find it.
You should watch it.
Yeah.
Basically, all of these movies my daughter likes. My daughter's 12.
It's her
she
generation.
Gets scared.
Oh,
She'll
House of the Devil. Did anyone see that?
That's good.
I just watched that.
That's kind of out of the norm for this current crop of movies. It's actually really, really good.
Yeah. It's slow as all fucking hell.
It's slow, but it's got a real good nostalgic throwback vibe to it.
Yeah. The way it's done is good. But yeah, I watched fucking... I can't believe I'm gonna... Killer Legends on Netflix. It's by the guy that did the Cropsey documentary, which is also worth watching. But it's basically about these urban legends that were made into movies and where the urban legends actually came from. And it's really, really interesting. And one of them was like the guy coming to kill the babysitter, and he's on the phone with her inside the house. That whole thing. Killer clowns, poisoning, Halloween Candy. It's just it's a good documentary. But I watched two newer movies though. God, I watched a lot of movies. I typically try not to do anything. But I saw The Visit, and
Oh, Shamalama Ding Dong.
Shamalama Ding Dong,
Mm.
and I saw Good Night
Boycotting
Mommy.
What was the other one you said?
Good Night Mommy. It's like a French movie, I think.
Hmm.
No, it's Dutch, I think. But it's about these. Goodnight Mommy was interesting. It's about these two twins, and their mom goes and gets surgery, and when she comes back, her face is all bandaged up, and the kids don't think that that's their mom. Like, they're like talking to her, and they go, "Holy shit, that's not mom."
Oh, you know
And
what? I have heard of this. Yeah.
that was interesting. And I won't ruin that at all, because like half the people I know who've seen it knew exactly what was going to happen, and the other half had no idea. So I'm just not going to say anything. The Visit was, if you liked The Sixth Sense and that Shyamalan era, and stories that might be a little weak don't bother you too much, then this movie might be for you.
His stuff is pretty weak. I've sworn off of him.
This was the better, probably the best thing I've seen of his since Unbreakable.
Okay. Because I'm going to say The Village pretty much killed him for me. I didn't even see Lady in the Water or The Happening, which I heard were even worse. And it's
Oh
just,
God, The Happening, dude.
I'm not looking. I'm not going to go out of my way to watch any of his stuff really anymore.
But anyway, so Pieces.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about Pieces.
So,
Let's talk about Pieces.
oh Jesus Christ. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that it can be. Let's talk about sex. That's what it is. Who is that?
I don't know. Like Belle Biv DeVoe or some nonsense. I don't know. Some
Boys to
80s.
Men? Oh.
No. Was it Salt and Pepper?
I think it was Girls.
Yeah, it was Girl.
Was it TLC or was it Salt and Pepper?
It has to be looked up now.
Pretty sure it was neither one. I think it was
Salt and Pepper.
En Vogue.
Nope, it was Salt and Pepper.
Oh.
Damn, and Vogue. I haven't heard that in forever.
So yeah, Pieces. Sorry guys, for anybody that's still actually with us.
Hey, if you have any questions for us, let us know.
Yeah,
we're
gonna
obviously extremely knowledgeable.
There's nobody there.
I'm going over to the
We have
Q&A. Wait, I looked at answered questions and there's none, and then I looked at questions and there's also none. Okay.
Sounds all right.
So I picked Pieces because, well, just a little bit of backstory because why not? One of my earliest memories of Fangoria magazine was a copy of Fangoria that had an article on the movie Pieces, and I think I was initially drawn to the article because they had pictures of some of the murders in the film in the magazine. But then I started reading, and it talked about it talked about some of the plot, and here you have this killer who chops people's heads off in broad daylight, and how they screened this thing in the movie theater, and the audience was laughing because the mother was asking for a plastic bag before they were never even invented, and I don't know. I don't know if I just kind of was totally drawn to the idea of the film and didn't know if I'd ever get a chance to even see it. I pretty much just read the plot and knew most of the plot of the movie before I ever saw it. I think I was probably about, I don't know, 11. Sounds like about 11 or 12. So I did finally get to watch the movie, and it's been a film that I've probably watched, I can't even imagine how many times I've seen Pieces. I think the first copy I ever got was, I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember when you would take two different VCRs and hook them up together.
Fuck yeah.
So that you could make, what is that? So that you could make like bootlegs, and then some of the videos would have macro vision and you wouldn't be able to copy them, and they'd have all the heat waves and stuff. But
Yeah.
Pieces didn't, of course, because why would it? So I had a copy of Pieces and I watched it a lot. And I saw it on the big screen at the Exhumed Films Halloween Horror-thon. I forget which episode it was, or which version, maybe the first one or the second one. And I'm having trouble concentrating on
Is
what I'm
that not the
talking about.
scariest thing you've ever seen?
I switched to Eric's screen so
You
that I
could buy this. It's like a little doll.
Put that down. Chris is talking. Show some respect.
I'm sorry.
I think that what the commentary and those visuals went well together. That's the weird part.
Yeah.
Anyway, so clearly it's a staple in my library of horror films. I like it. It's obviously a very dumb film. It's not to be taken seriously. It's very silly, but it's really a lot of fun and gory as hell, and very misogynistic and exploitative and so on and so forth. But when I started the Giallo score, I said, boy, it's very in a very similar vein to Happy Birthday to Me was this film, and I said, well, I wonder how it would do on the Giallo score. So I picked it. Um, it was released in 1982. The director is Juan Simone. Our soundtrack composer is Stelvio Cipriani, who also did, I believe, was it Bay of Blood, which is one of Creep's favorites, and he also did Death Walks on High Heels. I think that Pieces isn't that great of a soundtrack. It's not horrible, but it's. I think the problem with the Pieces soundtrack is that I'm always reminded of the marching band music that's never ends in the middle of the movie, and I'm sure that can be credited to whoever put the soundtrack together. But anyway, it's for anybody who hasn't seen it or who needs a reminder or refresher. The film starts out with a flashback scene of a little boy who decides that he just doesn't want his mother to tell him what to do anymore, and so he smacks her over the head with an axe 3 or 4 times. And then while he's waiting for someone to notice that no one has left the house in a few days, he saws her into pieces and then eventually hides in the closet and pretends that there was a killer. And then we flash forward to 40 years later, and what we assume is the same person is now constructing or reconstructing the puzzle of the naked woman that he was constructing when he was a boy, and eventually goes on a murder spree to collect pieces based on the puzzle and sew them together so that he can recreate this woman. Whether he's recreating the woman to replace his mother, or whether he's recreating the woman as a sexual object, or both at the same time, is never really explored because it's not that deep of a film in the first place. However, it is, with all of its weirdness and strangeness stripped away, it is basically a murder mystery, and we have a two-person detective duo along with an amateur detective who are following clues. All of the murders are committed within the confines of this university. Did they ever say the name of the college? Or was it just a
I don't think they did.
Some
unknown
make-believe
name?
school in Boston.
Some school in Boston. So, we're introduced to a slew of shifty-eyed characters who have weird things in their past and whatnot, and we're presented with a bunch of red herrings. But really, the film is about the murder showpieces and all of the crazy stuff that happens in between. So I thought it was an interesting film to feature here on the podcast because it does follow generally the Giallo format. To to close out my discussion or introduction of the film, it got a 61 on the Giallo score. And when you consider that it lost 23 points for not being Italian with an Italian director, and at the time between 1970 and 75 when most Gialli were put out, it's a pretty good score. So consider that if it had been released at a different time, it would have gotten a 84. 84 is way higher than the norm for most Giallo or Gialli. I've been listening back to the podcasts over the last several weeks, and I am completely inconsistent when I use the plural versus the singular of Giallo. I just totally use it totally wrong, and most of the time I use it wrong. Which I just said that twice. But yeah. So anyway, it's an interesting film. It hits as far as the Giallo score is concerned, it hits a lot of the important staples and standards, and even scores 6 out of 10 on the little 1-point things, which I think most of those are very specific to the time period. So that's kind of interesting as well. So a 61 out of 100 for a 1982 Spanish-American co-production of basically what's an American slasher, but has enough kind of international-ness to it. Very specifically, when you watch Pieces and you see that they've dubbed in the audio, even though most of the actors are speaking English, it makes you feel like you're watching an Italian or some other kind of foreign European horror film. So,
Yeah, it's more Giallo than most Giallo. Lee.
and needless to say, I love the film and would recommend it to anybody. I think Creep probably is in the same camp.
Well, we should mention that Creep is in the movie.
Popeye. I mean, Brutus.
There's how do I make that happen? There we go. For those of you watching, there's a picture of me. And
Old Bluto.
Old Bluto. Yeah, Paul L. Smith is like fucking awesome. I love that guy. But yeah, let me see where I was gonna hit something. Oh, never mind. Eric, what do you think?
What do I think? Of the movie Pieces.
Yes.
Yeah, I suppose I'll go ahead of you because I know you got a lot of love for this movie to share, I'm sure. I mean, you've got the T-shirt on right now for our video subscribers. But yeah, Pieces.
None of them.
Yeah, it is no classic, that's for sure.
Oh, fuck you, sir.
Neither is it boring. Delivering murder by axe, knife, and chainsaw, a smorgasbord of severed limbs, sliced torsos, and grisly decapitations, plus gallons of the red stuff. Clumsy, energetic, and derivative as hell, it's best viewed as an over-the-top summation of the slasher horror genre taken so close to the edge that it tilts into self-parody. That's my own original thoughts. I did not read that out of the Arrow DVD booklet sitting right next to me, but that pretty much does put it in a nutshell and says a lot better than I could have. I read that little booklet after I took all my notes and stuff, and it pretty much is word for word what I wrote down. It's very derivative. It's at the zenith of slasher films in 1983 here in America. Just perfect grindhouse driving fun. Even if you can tell where you were talking about the soundtrack, and from what I understand, the soundtrack itself is even kind of stitched together from different sources, and that's kind of how this movie feels to me. Even though it never gets into, I said it was derivative, so did this guy Stephen Thrower, but it never gets into the point where it's like, oh, I saw that in this movie or I saw that over here. It's just kind of they took it and they made it their own and had a lot of fun with it. And I was never looking at the clock watching this movie go by. It's actually really short, but it was just something that I was really enjoying, and I didn't think that I was going to get that much jolly out of it, but I felt like I really did see what you guys were talking about with, obviously the killer's look, and then just the goofiness of the dubbing. You kind of mentioned one of the lines that came out at the beginning of the movie with the waterbed and and things like that, and just a lot of goofiness coming out with the kung fu instructor, the saxophone music playing while the girl was about to get into the pool, taking her clothes off. Just her boyfriend in general is the amateur detective. He's supposed to be like this stud on campus. He's a big doof.
Yeah, he is, and he's a huge stud. Like the whole
That's
reason
like the
why he
funniest
didn't
part.
get, and the whole reason why he didn't make it to the pool to have sex with the one girl was because he was having sex with some other girl.
Yeah,
And then later on, he's got the third girl who's saying, "Do anything you want to me. You can even put a gag in my mouth.
yeah.
Please stay
I'll
in the
control
bed
myself this
and
time,
keep banging
please.
me."
But yeah, just I mean, I have it on this DVD, but it still retained that grimy look to it, which I don't think they'll ever be able to get rid of, just because of how it was shot and how it was done. And I was in it the whole way, and I really did enjoy the film. Um, those are just kind of my impressions of it. I know we'll probably go through more in depth, but I'll hand the floor to Creep if he wants to
So
talk
wait,
about
Eric, that this wasn't watching it for this podcast was not your first time watching it, I guess.
it. It was actually, yeah, this
Oh,
was
it
my
was.
first time. Yeah,
Wow, that's amazing.
yeah. I had the DVD sitting on my shelf.
I can't imagine being as old as we are and seeing Pieces for the very first time. That's like,
Yeah,
I didn't see it until I was probably like mid-20s.
wow.
okay.
I didn't even know it existed. It
Yeah,
was just like,
I guess I didn't know either. Like you're saying, it's one of those slashers that doesn't really jump to the top of the list, but in it, yeah, I guess it doesn't hold that nostalgic quality that it does with you, Chris, that a lot of other slashers do with me. So
Right.
it maybe was a little more difficult to immerse in some of the silliness.
Yeah, I mean,
Even
I think that my youth went down the B movie trash avenue
yeah,
much quicker than most people. I think, most kids uh, my age who started watching horror movies probably watched some of the more mainstream ones. But the thing about Pieces was I had a friend who had already seen the film once while we were trying to obtain a copy because it was one of those things where it wasn't porn, but your parents still wanted to know what did you get from the movie store, and if you
yeah.
told them that you rented Pieces, you probably weren't going to be able to watch it. So you either had to rent it and hide it and wait for them to fall asleep, or watch it at somebody's house where the parents didn't give a shit or the parents weren't home. And so my friend had seen it once already, and he said, "You have to wait for the very last scene. You have to wait for the very last scene." And that was like the thing that I had been, and I think the very first time I saw it, I turned it off maybe before that very last scene, or if I didn't turn it off, it must have been that I thought something else was what he was talking about and not the actual very last scene.
yeah,
Um, so it took me a couple of times, and then when I finally saw it, I said, "Oh, okay, I understand what the big deal was." But
yeah.
um, did you guys? I mean, and speaking from the Giallo standpoint, I mean that beginning after the flashback is over and we flash forward to 40 years later, the parallels that you can draw between the beginning of Bird with the Crystal Plumage and the beginning of this film with the black, uh, basically the black outfit with the hat, the jacket, and the gloves, taking out the picture, taking out the box with all the trinkets in it, and then holding up the picture. This is going to be my next victim, that sort of thing. I mean, obviously not a coincidence. I don't know if they decided that they were gonna lift that directly, or they were just influenced by Argento or Jolly. I mean, you have a European filmmaker, so I would assume that you know Giallo
Well,
was on his mind a little bit.
before I comment on that, I'm gonna go ahead and explain how I got into this movie.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Um, the reason why I saw this movie the first time was because a friend of mine knew I liked just the most cheesy, ridiculous slasher movies that I could find, and I was really getting into Giallo films, and he's like, "Oh, dude, you like, what do you think of Pieces?" I'm like, "I don't even know what that is," and he was just like so shocked that I had never heard of it or seen it, and he just brought it the next time I saw him, and he's like, "Sit down, don't do anything else, just watch this." And it was just amazing. And um, when you're talking about the crystal plumage bits, like totally, and just like when he's like, there's a shot they use a couple times of the killer in the window of the door, like looking in
Yes.
on the girls in the ballet, that
Yep.
just looks like fucking Blood and Black Lace or uh, what's that? How come I can't think of it? The movie Black Billy the Tarantula. Like it
Hmm.
just like it has so much um, Giallo influence in this, like way more than I any slasher I could think of. But
Yes.
um, but go ahead with what you were saying.
No, that was it. I agree. I think that you know, the movie eventually kind of loses that stylistic. I mean, it creeps in every once in a while, but clearly the emphasis is on the shock and the titillation and the nudity. We certainly do have this investigation going on with these two cops. Um, and I don't know, like, I think I like, I, one of the things that reminded me of Giallo was that, they tried a little bit of humor with the cops. Like every time um, Lieutenant Bracken is being introduced by the dean, he says inspector, and then Bracken corrects him each time, and then they bring him to see the psychiatrist, and he says, "Come on and meet the doc," and he says, "I wish you wouldn't call me that. You know I'm not a doctor of medicine." And just these little kind of one-liners that Argento's really kind of known for, and some of these other, like, all of the little, like, hijinks that they did in Death Walks on High Heels with the cops and the guy who vomits out the window on top of the one cop's hat, and Pennypacker, and every time the inspector was about to take a sip out of his tea, somebody else interrupted him. Like some of that little, almost like slapstick stuff was going on in this movie. Um, but it was so subtle, and it wasn't subtle like because they made it subtle. It was subtle because the movie is so outlandish in every other way that it's almost like you don't notice them trying to be subtle in other ways. I just one of the things that I just can never wrap my head around is why they did that very first scene with the girl who slams into the mirror on her skateboard. Um, Other
That
than just
that
to have a scene like that, I don't know.
to me that was the sound of her hitting that mirror was the trigger that made him start his killing spree.
You think?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the same thing with Bird in the Crystal Plumage. Like the girl saw the painting, and the painting triggered her to go on a killing spree, kind of thing.
Okay.
You know
See,
what I'm
I didn't
saying?
I didn't get it from I didn't get that. I kind of thought that, okay, here's the picture of the first person that I'm going to kill for her head, and I was about to go after her, but then she slammed into the mirror, and it reminded me of my mother smacking the mirror with something, and so I put an X through her head and decided to start with somebody else. Like what I got out of it was like a false start for the killer. But um, I mean, I think your explanation makes more sense. Like, why would they show, you know,
Him fuck it up.
you know what I mean? Like it was like a rough draft or something. It was like his
Yeah.
first try.
It makes sense, but it was done with less precision and skill than an Argento might have done. I know that rubs Creep the wrong way.
Anything Argento does rubs me the wrong way. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But the thing that gets me every fucking time is how the killer walks into the elevator with a chainsaw behind his back, and the girl doesn't see it. And then that is hysterical. But then when the kid and the cops run in, the kid is telling the cops what to do, and the cops are standing there and puking.
And not only that, but the cop who's puking his guts out is the one that Kendall tells to go make the phone call. The other one's just fine. Like, why wouldn't you tell the guy who doesn't have a mouthful of vomit to go make the phone call? You know, I noticed that this time around. Like, he just happened to pick
funny.
Yeah, it's really funny. But
if you want to talk about like a hero that is totally unlikely on accident, it would be Kendall for sure.
Right. Yeah, and he's not like completely unlikable, and he's not totally like the hero like you root for him either. So
he kind of pisses you off because you're like, how does that guy get so much play?
Right. Well, I guess my question for Eric is, did you guess the killer?
I feel like after 40-something movies, I'm still pretty terrible at guessing killers. This one I actually got pretty early on. They weren't bashful about kind of, letting you know, but at the same time, it wasn't like an obvious misdirection. It was just kind of something that they were leading you down that path towards, and it wasn't like they were trying to hide it as much.
Yeah.
Maybe a typical Giallo movie, but at the same time, they weren't going to give it away right away. But there really weren't too many people that you could cast blame on. Obviously, it wasn't going to be Bluto.
Right.
As much fun as that would have been, but
yeah, it's like as the movie goes through, as it keeps going forward, you're dwindling the list.
Yeah.
Down to one person, basically.
Yeah.
Willard does kind of put give himself a bad name when he starts attacking everyone for no reason and throwing people across the room, and no one's threatening him or anything. He's just kind of going ape shit. I thought that was kind of silly, but
yeah, he's like, well, here you guys caught me in this room with a bloody chainsaw and a bunch of pieces of a girl. I guess I'm gonna have to act like I did it.
Yeah.
The look on his face is the best. He's like, he looks at the chainsaw and he's like, and he looks down and he's like, oh,
And then he
just like.
He goes through that whole rigmarole, that whole procedure, and then he's back a couple scenes later, like nothing happened. So that's kind of how you know he was off the list.
Yep.
But I was able to kind of figure it out early on. But like you were saying about the very ending, without spoiling it, I'll just say that I'm very surprised in this day and age, 2015. This movie did the reputation did kind of precede itself. But at the same time, I'd never heard anything about someone saying, "Wait till the end." Oh, you got to see the end. The ending is just crazy as shit. I never heard any kind of inkling like that. So that was something that caught me off guard, and I feel like I got the impression that the movie makers wanted because I didn't know anything about it. I did not know that was
coming. And in a regular Giallo, that ending just doesn't go with anything. Like it doesn't make any sense at all that this woman who wasn't really one woman but 5 or 6 women pieced together would all of a sudden be animated and reach up and grab our protagonist's package,
and tear it clean off
and pop it like a bubble.
Yeah, that was a total slasher ending. Like slasher.
Yep, totally slasher ending. But what was I gonna say?
Every time I see that though, I forget about it. And like whenever I watch it, like when the body comes out, I jump a little bit. I'm like, holy shit, I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's always
And then when the hand comes up, then I jump again, and I'm like, fuck, it's like
they play it really well.
I never remember that happens until it happens. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, because there's a big kind of, that the end game or the final scene. It's like in a traditional giallo, they will spend some time trying to either reenact or reconstruct the motive or the psychology behind why the killer was doing what he was doing, and they didn't do that here. They just had the final standoff, and it was like, okay, the cops come, and the killer has decided that he's going to hide, and I guess he hides behind like the curtain or something, and Mary has been left in the room, and she's drugged, and she can't say anything, and then there's that final struggle between the killer and Kendall, and then once that's over and he gets killed, and then you feel like, okay, we've come to closure, and then you say, oh, wait a minute, they still have to figure out how to find this thing that the guy was piecing together and sewing together. So let's go, and we have to go, and Bracken basically says, okay, let's tear this place apart, and so they don't find anything, but then Kendall hits the trap door, and then she comes out and she falls down, and on top of him, right? And he goes and freaks out, and then it's kind of like, okay, that's the ending. But that wasn't the ending. They still threw one more thing in there for you, just in case you weren't
Just in case you thought this movie was serious.
right.
Um, you know, I mean, it's total like a tongue-in-cheek, like fuck you to reality. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
But
of course. And the thing that I don't know whether this is like Giallo or not like Giallo. I haven't decided yet, but like the whole way that they decided to figure out that it was the dean, we can kind of just spoil it at
compared
this
to
point.
the being,
Uh, how did they figure out it was the dean? Well, Kendall found some transcript where the guy changed his name. So they call the records department in Arlington, and I'm assuming they're talking about Virginia, and they find out that it's the dean. And apparently his mother was chopped up when he was a kid, and it must have caused some sort of trauma, and then they've decided that that's enough, and they have enough information to go and get the dean. But um, did any of that like evidence make sense to you guys? I mean, like, I know that they said something about, well, he goes to Arlington on the first of every month, and in the beginning of the movie, they talked about how the kid has a father who was in the Air Force, and I start like putting these extra pieces together because I want to make something. I want to make sense of it, even though there probably isn't no way to do it. Like, okay, his father was killed in the Air Force in the war, and so that's why he goes to Arlington the first of every month to see his father, who was buried in Arlington Cemetery, which is where they bury the soldiers. Um, did anybody put any of that together? And how did they? How do you feel about the fact that they just kind of spent maybe,
the
I
only
don't
the
know,
only part that
30
I
to 40
hated about
seconds
it,
like proving that it was the dean?
the only part I didn't like about it is that like the police force or one guy is going through all these records and Kendall shows up and just happens to fucking stumble upon shit that's gonna make everything awesome.
Well, he was
So
eating
that was
lunch.
the only like I'm like fucking this guy, dude.
When
Like
needs his good fuel?
I would have liked this more, I think, if it was like a thing where like Bird with the Crystal Plumage, he was a suspect, like a hardcore suspect. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? And he was trying to like prove his innocence or whatever to kind of earn his way in instead of like, hey, I'm the coolest guy on campus. Well, then you should definitely come into our police station and do our job for us.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
I stake
but
my life on him.
yeah. But like I think the thing with the dean lying about his past and having a hacked up mom, I think that was enough for them to at least go question him. I don't know if it was enough for them to say he obviously did it, because I think they had absolutely zero suspects. Because the one guy obviously couldn't do it because he was gay.
Right.
So, and
Yeah, it was an
everyone knows
affliction.
gay people can never kill anybody.
Yeah.
But like other than that and Paul, like there are absolutely no more suspects.
Yeah, the only other person that we've even heard from was the secretary. So
Yeah.
could have been her, but and then I liked how, they had this little kind of interruption murder, I'd call it. Like, the killer was not interested in this woman from the paper as far as making her into part of his project, this Frankenstein project of sewing women's parts together. So he didn't use a chainsaw on her, he just used a knife.
Yeah.
I thought that was probably one of the more well orchestrated murder sequences because they
Fuck yeah.
used the slow motion and the waterbed and the knife, and it was really well done and really gory, and
That is the director's favorite scene of the movie that he
yeah,
did.
I believe
Yeah.
it. Well, I slowed down and paused the the murders, the first murder of the girl who's just sitting out on the lawn studying, and if you every time I've watched it, I say, why did they film that with the sun like right in our faces during the money shot? And then if you slow it down and freeze frame it, you'll see that the mannequin that they used for that particular cut looks so ridiculously fake
It's
that
awful. It's like the Mrs. Voorhees getting her head cut off.
yeah,
Like the thing hits it this way and the neck breaks this way. It's
or like
awful.
the original Evil Dead where that one zombie flies up in the air and Ash hits it with a shovel and it looks like some sort of puppet. It's on screen for just a split second, but then
Yeah.
it looks like a puppet or a mannequin from the mall or something. So, and then the scene where the girl's in the elevator and you can clearly see, she puts her arms out and then they cut away and then they cut back and then she's got this kind of thing that looks like this sticking
It's so
out.
rad. When that gets cut off, dude, it's just like that's for me. That like I was in. Like that was like
Yeah, it's cool.
when that girl's arm gets cut off, because like I'm really into like that like Japanese spray.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
The
So
arterial
like
spray.
yeah, totally. So like when that arm came off and like blood shot up on her face, I was like, oh, like I don't like gore, but when it's like I like blood. Like I don't want to see brains or eyeballs or intestines or anything like that. But when shit is like spraying out, it's like Christmas, dude. I
So
love
you
it. It's
so
so
you're big
fucking
on
cool.
the on that scene in Tenebrae with the axe.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah,
But like
yeah.
anything that looks like Tokyo Gore Police or Machine Girl or Frankenstein Girl versus Vampire Girl or whatever that was, like it's just class, man. Like anything, like Attack the Flying Guillotine or Man of the Flying Guillotine or whatever. Like when he throws that little cage thing on the chain. Have you guys seen that movie?
No.
Oh my god, dude! It's like this guy has this basket and it's on a chain. It's like this old '70s Japanese samurai thing. And when it lands on people's heads and then he pulls the chain and it has like razors all over it
Mm.
and it rips their heads off and leaves their head in the basket or whatever. And it's like stump. It's just like amazing.
It's like when they did that in like Kill Bill with to just
yes.
to emphasize like how sharp the swords were.
Mhm.
All the capillaries were spraying out. Like
Oh my god, it's so much fun. Because I think I can't remember if it was Machine Girl or Tokyo Gore Police, but one of those, like she decapitates like a cop or something like that, and it's just like yards of blood raining, and it's like slow motion, and it's just like blood raining down, and it's so ridiculous and fantastical, but it's just
right.
like I love it, and like it's kind of like that whole thing. Like I like my Giallo really ridiculous and over the top, and so when you go and your blood is over the top on top of it, it's just like to me, it makes it more sweet. It's like
Right.
a candy bar with everything yummy in it that you want, you know? But I don't know. I do have. Was there anything else you want to talk about the actual movie? I have a lot of, not a lot, but I have some notes about behind the scenes kind of
No,
stuff.
let's hear it because I love this movie. I love hearing stories about this movie more than the
Yeah,
actual movie
I'm
itself.
really bummed. I haven't watched the audio commentary on either version. I don't know if it's the same audio commentary on the Grindhouse and the Arrow version, but
Are you going to
on
talk about the
both of
tennis?
those, yeah. Are you going to talk about the tennis? Eric, go ahead and say anything you got, and then
I
I'll
don't
throw
have
some
much.
out.
I just
The
want. I didn't
tennis
want.
is
I wouldn't have felt.
ridiculous.
I wouldn't have felt right leaving here tonight without talking about the tennis scene and the playing of the tennis. And this woman's supposed to be a superstar tennis player, and just the lobbing that they would do back and forth, and then the people's heads back and forth with the action.
Well, there's one point where the heads don't even follow the ball. The
Yep,
heads
exactly.
turn and then the ball comes
Yeah.
across.
Yep. They can't keep up with it. It's so action packed and fast. But I guess just tying that into the trivia, they were not expert tennis players, believe it or not. They probably didn't even know how to hold a tennis racket, and they had to hire I guess like a tennis coach or a tennis instructor to come on the set and teach them so that I think it even said that teach them so that it would just be passable, that like people wouldn't watch and be like, this is god awful. But I don't know if it's because I read that before I watched the movie. I don't think it would have mattered. I think just watching them play it just stuck out like a sore thumb, and especially because they
So
described
bad.
her as like this all-star tennis champion. Talking about Linda Day George.
Linda Day George. Well, about that scene in particular, when she got the part, the American investors, producers, I think it's Dick Randall and somebody, they brought all the American talent in, and the director never met or talked to any of them before the movie. So when they got there, he asked her, he's like, do you know how to play tennis? And she's like, everyone in California knows how to play tennis.
Oh boy.
And so he's like, okay. And he's like, she couldn't even hold a racket. She had
Uh-huh.
no idea what she was doing. And then the girl she was playing was the wardrobe girl's daughter. And it was just like a little bit part for her to be in the movie or something like that. And she didn't know how to play tennis. And so that's when they were like, shit, we need to change the schedule and shoot everything else because they have absolutely no idea what they're doing. And they hired their tennis coach or whatever. But the director, what's his name? Help me.
On
On
Simone.
Simone, okay. When he got offered this movie, it wasn't this movie he got offered. He actually was offered House of a Thousand Corpses, Last House on the Left Part 2. And he just didn't like the script and didn't really think there was a whole lot to do. It was kind of a boring thing for him. So they gave him a synopsis that either was entitled A Thousand Screams or Jigsaw. And I can't remember which one he said he wrote off of it, but it was like a 12-page synopsis. And he's like, well, I've never done like a horror movie before, so if I do this, I want total creative control if I'm going to write this and do all this stuff. And so they gave him complete creative freedom to do whatever he wanted to do. And that's how the movie happened. He wrote it in about 15 days. And the script was super short, so they had to improvise a lot of scenes based on what was around them at the time to pad the movie out. And one of those scenes was the infamous Chop Suey scene, because somebody brought this karate instructor on set just to like go, hey, this is a movie being made. And he's like, there's no way I'm going to let this guy out of here without being in the movie doing some fucking kung fu. So they threw that scene together so they could get him in the movie. But yeah, so it was shot in 5 weeks in Madrid. It was a co-production between America and Spain. And the only American actor that the director had a hard time with was the guy who played the dean. And he would talk when he was directing the other actors and joke and just say stupid shit. And apparently they had, on the first day of him doing this, they had a pretty violent physical confrontation. And after that, everything was fine, and they ended up becoming really great friends. So, when
You know that
an actor
and
friends.
that guy who played the dean. Let's see, his name was
Amanda Hug and Kiss.
Edmund Pordom.
Yeah.
Now he was in
Fordham, I hardly knew him.
he was in the Fifth Chord.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'll wait till you're done.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready. No, he was in the Fifth Chord. He was. I don't know if you guys remember the Fifth Chord. It was a long time ago. We covered it, but in the Fifth Chord there is a kind of love triangle. The killer is initially. It looks like the killer is trying to win the love of this woman, but it turns out that he's jilted by the guy instead, and the guy is this guy who plays the dean.
Was his hair lighter
actor.
in Fifth Chord?
Well, yeah.
Like
Well, he
more-
was obviously younger. I mean, the Fifth Chord was 12 or 11 years earlier.
Yeah.
So he looked a lot younger in this. But he was, I think his name was Edward something or other, and he might have been the French teacher at the school in the Fifth Chord. But anyway, just thought that was interesting. Because I had seen Pieces first, because I had seen that when I was a kid, and I watched the Fifth Chord, and I'm like, holy shit, that's the Dean.
It's the
From
dean.
Pieces. Jesus.
Another little interesting tidbit is that the director of Pieces owned a distribution company in Spain, and he created a lot of the posters for the movies that he put out and that were put out through his distribution company. And one of the posters that he made was the international poster for Bay of Blood, which is the one that is most frequently used, with the red with the chick coming out with the bill hook on her neck kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
So that's just kind of
That's cool.
biblical, interesting. The Spanish score was different. If you recall at the beginning of this movie, it says the score is by Cam.
Yes.
And what Cam is, I guess, is like a abbreviation for some group that gives you free music to put in your films.
Okay.
And with the hopes that you will put a soundtrack out and then give them royalties on the soundtrack, I guess. And that's where the score came from, and that's how it got scored. But the director hated it and threw like a total fit and said that he wanted a brand new score made specifically for the movie. And apparently that score is only available on the Spanish version of this movie and was not released on any other version.
The Cam version.
The Cam version is the one that he hated.
Oh,
That
okay.
we have in America and they have everywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
But the Spain score is different, apparently.
So because I'm always thinking about, like, you know, the the kind of when the girl's riding her skateboard and smashes into the mirror. Like
Yeah.
I wonder like where that came from. And then, obviously the song where the dancers are all running
Awful.
around is all
Yeah.
running around. It sounds like Funky Town. It sounds like won't you take me to Funky Town? I think that was, obviously trying to be a ripoff thereof. And then there was the sexy
Yeah.
saxophone
I
thing
can't
that
believe
they.
it's called that. That's so funny.
Is that what it's called?
Is that
Sexy,
well?
sexy
That's
saxophone?
what it's called on YouTube, isn't it?
I don't know.
Oh, that's just what I called it.
Oh,
That's my name for the track, yeah.
But didn't they use that twice, right? The one time when the girl is in the pool, but then again when the dancer is doing her solo dance.
Yes.
And then
I'm
she
sorry.
goes.
I'm watching the movie right now, and they're eating Wendy's, and it's making me really hungry. I love me some
Product
Wendy's.
placement.
Yeah, they were not afraid to put that front and center.
And it's funny because this guy Frank Branagh is also in another movie by this director that I love called Slugs.
Yeah, Slugs is a good
It's a
film.
little while after this. And if you remember that movie, he's in his office and he's just trying to eat a fucking sandwich. And the guy's coming in talking to him about the water. And he's like, I'm trying to eat my fucking sandwich. So I fucking love that.
Haven't
If you
seen
like pieces, you will absolutely devour Slugs.
You haven't seen that in a
It's
long
like
time.
it's just as cheesy, but it's like
Has slugs?
so much more ridiculous. Yeah, it has slugs in it, but it is so ridiculous. The lines, just like how their dialogue flows, is like I can't even describe it. It's so
Yeah.
awful. It's like one of my favorite movies. It's great. And then last but not least, just a little tidbit on Paul Smith. Um, he requested, because he had never done a horror movie before, and he just said, keep me away from as much of the blood and guts as you can. I don't mind being a red herring here, but like just keep me away from all of this stuff. I don't want to end up typecasted and all this other stuff. And then he went on to do Dune. So yay.
But he did Popeye first, didn't he?
I think he did Popeye before this.
4 pieces.
Yeah. But his thing is great. There's another documentary on the Grindhouse one called The Reddest Herring, and it's an hour interview with him, and it's obviously an hour long, but it's like it goes through his whole career. So if you're like sitting here going, oh, I want to get some good information on pieces from him, like you're watching an hour long of him talking about everything he ever fucking did. So, like that's what I did. I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna watch this and get some information, and I found out so much more than I ever wanted to know about Paul Smith.
The reddest herring.
The reddest and braddest herring.
Oh, cool.
And anyway, like Christopher George, anytime Christopher George is in a movie, you know you're gonna like it. He's basically the Vincent Price of shit slasher movies.
Yeah, he is. Well,
If
he was a
you
TV guy too, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was in some army show.
Hogan's Heroes?
Shit. No, like the Rat Fuckers or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Yeah. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Okay.
But and then of course Linda Day George is his wife, and they were able to do a lot of movies together because it was like, hey, I'll do your movie, and if you let my wife come, we'll give you a discount and all this shit. Like if you put her in the movie, and but so there's a ton of great movies with them in it. If you haven't seen Grizzly, you're missing out. It's probably the best When Nature Attacks movie next to Jaws. And it has Christopher George in the role of Brody. It's about a bear.
Okay.
It's on YouTube. It's fucking amazing.
I believe I've heard
But
of it.
it's great. But like, he's been in so many things. Like, what's the one where he's the track coach? Was that Graduation Day, or was it?
Yeah, I think so.
There's another one, not Fatal Games. I don't know if that was it or not. He's been in so many great shit movies, and he's been in a ton of action stuff. But he's just so nonchalant, and I don't know. I can't do
And
it.
he's always
But,
got that kind of side. He's got that like this, because he's always got like a cigar or
yeah,
something.
yeah,
I always like him in that Fulci movie Gates of Hell because he was in
yeah.
that too. And there's a scene in Gates of Hell where the one character, they think that she's had a heart attack and died, and so they bury her in a coffin, and the guys who are digging the grave decide that they're not going to fill the grave in because it's quitting time, and so they just leave this coffin in a half-filled grave, and she wakes up inside the coffin, and Christopher George's character is like the newspaper guy, and he's walking around, and there's at least, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes worth of her making noises from inside the coffin and him stopping and listening because he thinks he hears something, and then turning around and walking away, and then she makes more noises, and then he turns around again, and then eventually he takes this giant pickaxe and smashes through the coffin to get her out, but almost hits her. Like the the pickaxe comes like this far from her face, like while she's in the coffin. It's just such a great scene. I don't know if you guys ever saw that.
Well, Christopher George isn't subtle. You know,
No,
he comes in and he fucking gets the job done
he
because
does.
he's fucking Christopher George.
And that
He's
was like
got
the great part about some of the things I put on the soundboard where he goes from Pieces, where he says, "What the hell with the book, damn it. The book says get the killer." And then there's the other one where he's like, "Look, just take some uppers or something, man. Get me a lead. I just need anything. Give me a goddamn lead." And I couldn't play any of
he's
those
like the
because
worst cop in the world. He's like, I'm gonna fucking sit around here and fucking yell at everybody,
yeah.
but I'm gonna smoke this cigar if it's the last thing I fucking do. Oh, he's so great. And then he just shows up and shoots the guy. Boom.
Yep. Right.
What's up? I'm Christopher George. I saved the day.
Didn't even have he didn't even have a couple of seconds to line up the shot, and he hit him square in the
No,
forehead.
man. Fuck yeah, he's Christopher George. That's what he does. That's what he gets paid the big bucks for. Oh, he's hysterical. But anyway, so yeah, that's Pieces.
Yeah,
We all
that's
loved
fun.
it.
Do you think he would have put
I
up
don't
with
know if
getting
Eric
his
would.
nuts ripped off?
Fuck
No.
no. They
No.
probably wrote it in the script like that. He's like, no, get this uncircumcised kid his nuts ripped off.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Yeah, he's
That's
already
another funny
already
thing. You know
shown
the
his
part where he
prick
gets
on.
out of bed?
What's
Yeah,
that?
when he gets out of the bed.
Yeah.
The scene where he hears something and he gets out and you see his filleting guy.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Apparently, him and the chick were under the covers for quite some time before they actually started shooting it. And when he first got out of the bed, he was like all gunned and ready to go. And they had to ice it. It wouldn't go down, so they had to go get an ice pack and sit it on his manhood until it
Go
went
down
away.
after 4 hours.
Yeah, like his what do you call that stuff? Viagra.
Yeah.
Jeez, oh Charlie.
But like, I love that guy's gray hair and black eyebrows. Like, he's just Frank Branagh. Like, that guy's got such an amazing head. Anyhow, and then another thing I was going to tell you, because you brought it up, the director said that when he wrote it, the body was supposed to be, he was trying to recreate his mother because he felt guilt for killing her and wanted to bring her back. So that's why he was putting a body together, according to the director.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And the only way that I guess the only association that he had with what a woman looks like was that puzzle.
Yeah.
So as he continued to put the puzzle pieces together, he went out and got those particular pieces. But I just like the scene where, he thinks he's got the whole body done and the shoes don't fit. So now he's got to get another pair of feet and he's and the dean comes out and he brings all this like plastic wrap and he's like, "Let's not make a mess in here." And she's all catatonic, paralyzed from the drug. And I think, the other thing was not. I know we're pretty much already done with this, but I think what was interesting about this, in compared to normal Giallo, normal Jolly, multiple, yeah, is that you usually find out who the killer is in a Giallo at the same time that everybody else does. But in this film, it was pretty obvious that the dean was poisoning um, the girl, and the cops hadn't figured it out yet, and then they were on their way. But it was kind of funny when she asked for saccharin in her coffee, and he gets out this little thing that has an eyedropper, and I guess you're supposed to. When I first saw that when I was a kid, I thought that clearly that's the poison, but I guess you could make the case that that's where he kept his like liquid, you know, artificial sweetener, and he was using that to sweeten the coffee instead of the sugar, like she had asked. And so you could still say, well, you weren't sure yet if he was the killer or not, but
Well, I mean, on a second viewing, it's totally obvious he's the killer. Like,
right,
he leaves every time he's supposed to leave. He's always, like, trying to get his jacket on right because he just had to get in and out of his outfit.
right.
And he's so fucking nervous the whole fucking time.
And then there's the scene
But
where the dancer comes to the elevator and she goes, "Oh, it's you, sir. You scared me." So it's like clearly the victim knows who it is, and she says, "Sir." So it's obviously not a student. It's got to be somebody in the faculty. She gets in the elevator with him, and like you
with a
said,
chainsaw.
with the chainsaw behind his back. It's so great. Such an awesome movie. I tried to get my wife to watch it. I actually got her to agree that we could start watching it last night, but she fell asleep like I think when the girl was on the skateboard heading down to the mirror. I think that's when she fell asleep. So
If
she
anyone
didn't.
fell asleep during this movie, I would urinate on their face. It's
Hmm,
not going to happen. Not on my watch.
yeah, well,
I'm going to play it on the projector in the back on Halloween.
Maybe I won't sleep
So,
on your couch.
yeah. I was gonna say
come sleep on my couch, Eric. I promise I will not pee on your face.
we've gone full
Um,
circle.
Maybe it would be an honor.
Get your creepy yellow wings. They're like little bat yellow wings you could sew on your jacket
Yes.
so you can be cool. All right. So, what's next week's film, guys? I know
think
it's
it's
not
Aaron.
mine. No one wants to watch mine.
I think I snuck mine in at number 2. What have they done to your daughters? Another
Yay.
Giallo joint. See how that one goes. I think it'll be a lot of contrasts to the film we watched here tonight.
Yay.
Yeah.
Even though there'll be a lot of misogynistic actions towards young women still. So
Well, the only thing I remember about this film is that it's pretty gory. So
Is this the one with the motorcycle? The guy on the motorcycle?
yeah,
that sounds
the
familiar.
killer's like a motorcycle.
Yeah.
Kind of looks like the stripped nude guy.
Yeah. All right.
If I remember, I think that it's not one of those things where the killer remains like hidden throughout the whole movie. Like they just identify him, and then it turns into the, can the cops get him in time kind of movie.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I've only seen it once, and it was a while ago, so I don't remember that much about it. Most people consider it a giallo, so we'll see.
Hey,
Yeah.
it's just 4 more weeks till Profumo.
There you
So
go.
everything's good.
We're building up. The slow burn.
I had to find it.
All right, guys. Well, I
Well,
will now play you the trailer or what have you for What Have They Done to Our Daughters?
what have they done?
And I don't know, something that will make us sit through 90 minutes of trying to find out. And yeah, so until next time, ciao, ciao, everybody.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao,
Ciao.
everyone.
There
And
it is.
I'll get my shit
Okay.
working next time.
Get your shit working. Put some Metamucil in your damn Google.
There you go.
Put some ice on it.
Yeah, put some ice.
Oh wait, that means
All
it's
right.
working too well.
Yeah. All right, see ya.